a special show for today just for you. I know everybody is so excited to hear by popular public demand. You know, he is really well known, not only in the Philippines, but practically in many parts of the world. And you know why? Because our speaker today has over 25 years of experience as an occupational health physician in the country and abroad. He also balances practice and theory, especially his tenure as the professor of the Master of Occupational Health at UP Manila College of Public Health and a manager of a multinational company, senior preventive medicine advisor. Guess what? A doctor, a nurse, a medical technologist. On top of being all that, he is our favorite COVID-19 guru, a friend, a colleague, a distinguished Toastmaster. Let's all welcome Dr. Renato Noy Joseph.
Thank you very much, Miss Diana. Have a wonderful day for you. It's such a generous introduction. I would like to strive hard on this session to justify what you have said and told about me. That's fine, Miss Diana. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I am so glad that after one shot of AstraZeneca, oh
Oh,
yeah,
congratulations.
I did not
Congratulations.
feel any negative effects.
All
so
right.
so I know by next month, early next month, I'm going to have my second shot, Doc Noy.
Okay. And that I think would be a very good discussion between us since you have experienced actually the vaccination from the vaccine AstraZeneca. So here we go.
Yes. You know, Doc Noy, a lot of people are really anxious and still uncertain because everybody thought it will be over after maybe a few months. But now that's like almost 1 year and a half and it's still there. Will you kindly give us, and I know you are abreast of all COVID-19 situational. So please, here and abroad, I know that you have it. All the updates, please, Doc Noy.
All right, Miss Dana, you are correct in saying that. And nothing that I do here every day in my life, in my flat, but just to read everything about COVID-19, balancing it with my spiritual life. Because I believe that really this pandemic could be answered by a divine intervention. All right, so I'm balancing science this time with spirituality. Let me start it off with some statistics. As of today, I always change my data. As of today, there are 166 million cases worldwide with 3.4 million deaths. So if we translate that or we go to our country, we have 1.1 million cases with 19,000 deaths as of time. So that is the data on the cases and the deaths. How about the vaccination, which is our topic for today, one of the two topics? In the world, there are a good number of vaccination rates already. Like it's of course spearheaded by Israel. They're doing great on that one. And the top five would be the United States, of course, the United Kingdom. We also have, I'm looking at my data so that I would not be mistaken with giving you the right information. So a little bit on that. While in the Philippines, we are, let me see, for example, yes, in the Philippines, we are just had completed about 2.05%. So we're lagging behind among our Asian neighbors. Of course, in Asia, it is the number one position in the vaccination rate is by Singapore, then followed by Hong Kong and Cambodia. So they are like 30%, 15%, 12% respectively, with us Philippines lagging behind at 2%. Now, overall, as I mentioned earlier, Israel is number one here with 62.77%. United Kingdom at 51%, United States at 47%, Canada at 46% vaccination rate. So we're doing good in as much as I had gathered the data that this is the latest, by the way. And just to mention, I got my data from UP Manila Philippine General Hospital from their Stop COVID Death webinar session, and from the Department of Health and Department of Labor and World Health Organization. So the good thing is we are expecting, as per our vaccine czar, a 202 million committed vaccines, right? And that's pretty good. Just for this month alone, we are expecting a high of a high of 11 million at the end of May. So next week, 11 million vaccine doses, and by 2021 of June next month, that would add another 9 million doses. So moving forward, the government is looking at the bulk of delivery in August 2021. And the government, the Philippine government, expecting to achieve the herd immunity that is hitting 70% of the population of the Philippines by November 2021. So they're very optimistic about that, and let us just cross our fingers that we'll be enjoying a happy Christmas this 2021. So having said those data, I have three main issues in mind, and as I mentioned earlier, it's all about praying to God that the timelines of delivery will in fact be realized as per schedule. And number two, how I hope the LGU units where the vaccination centers are coursed through them should have enough resources. I mean the manpower resources, the nurses, the doctors, the vaccination team to comply upon this target of achieving the herd immunity. And the last is, I pray so hard that the variants of concern, which number 4 as of time, should be addressed by the vaccines. This is a very important issue, because what if the vaccines would not be effective to the variants of concern, which is number 1 on the top of the list now is the Indian variants nowadays. And this is kind of sad development, because as of last night, I heard from my own hometown in Iloilo City, for the past 2 or 3 days, they are observing a high increase of cases, where in the past they did not have experienced that. Now, on our part in the National Capital Region, the good news is we are really decreasing the number of cases as of last week. We're now 4,000 cases in the whole of the Philippines. And the other good thing about is that our case fatality rate, the reproduction number continues to decrease. So that's good news for us here in Metro Manila. But of course, because with this GCQ with heightened restriction, we must carefully observe the things that we must. And later on, we will discuss about the ventilation thing, which I feel it's a very important thing to discuss, because soon the workplaces will be opening. It would be a blended work from home and actual office works. And many of our Filipinos will be traveling already from home to their workplaces. So later we'll get into that. Some
Yes,
more of good news, if I
oo.
may just add on this a little bit before I go to the details.
Yeah.
The good news is Pfizer has already got the approval to be vaccinated for the 12 to 15-year-olds. So it's already a go. It's a green signal already. And the AstraZeneca has already got the clearance again for it to be safely given to 60 years old and above. Because if you remember, Ms. Diana, these vaccines were held pending further studies. That was last month. So the scientists really are doing great in this regard. Okay, so before I go any further, any questions or yes?
I am concerned about one thing. There is still a portion of our countrymen, mga Pinoys, who are up to now reluctant to be vaccinated. And you know what? because news has been going around that there are really some people, even doctors, who were vaccinated and yet got infected. So, can you, why is that possible that you already got vaccinated and yet you got infected?
All right. This disease, the one that we're having now as a pandemic, is addressed by the newly discovered vaccine. So, as the disease is pretty new in the world, it is still enjoying a lot of researches. The thing is, not like the conventional diseases like the polio, measles, mumps, all the childhood immunization, the aim of the vaccine is to protect the people from having the disease. But this time, the vaccine that we have is rather are addressed to prevent the severe form of the COVID-19 disease. It's not totally to prevent the disease. So that is what the scientists are still working now. Now, you mentioned about people who have found to be positive despite their vaccines. Most data would point to the fact that it could be that most of these vaccinees are already positive before they got the vaccine, all right, before the vaccine. Now, the vaccine panel team is firm in saying because or despite of that development where people become positive after the vaccine, they're still firm in saying that there's no need for people to be tested even before the vaccines. So what the government is just telling us is for everybody to be aware of the COVID-19 symptoms and observe it once they develop such. So let it be. If cure is needed, then so be it. And then after the patient gets well, all right, 12 to 14 days after that, get the dose again. Get the dose of the vaccine. So this is a very good development. And in line with that, Ms. Dinah, I think many people are also asking about, is it okay to get another vaccine brand if
Mhm.
the first vaccine is, for example, a person gets injected with the China brand? The team panel now is saying that as of now, there is no hard evidence to say that it is more efficacious to do that. So they call it mix and match. In fact, as I speak, the government agencies in charge of this, the PCHRD, Department of Health, are presenting the final results of the study, whether they can have this mix and match thing. So we will look into that matter later on and get you posted, probably in our next session.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Because Doc Noy, you may not realize it. You already have a huge following because
Mhm.
we have guested you a few times already in the past, and your subject matter is of great relevance to us,
Mhm.
not only here but abroad as well. So that's why I said earlier that it's a popular public demand that we invite you again, and I'm so glad you found time to
Yeah,
yeah
that's
to be
really
with
great,
us.
Miss Dinah, because you see, as you know me earlier, even before our engagement for this COVID-19, I'm enjoying a lot of networks and not only networks, but big networks in the
Yeah,
government, which I have 100% trust on.
right.
It's really nice to meet my my elder mentors there at UP Manila and all of these things. And in line with this, also, the one important thing that people should know is how long can they extend the second dose? For
Yes,
example,
yes, yes,
if yes, right? So many people are asking that.
yes.
It has been studied that 5 months is okay, even 6 months is still okay to have the second dose delayed. In fact, the lead of the vaccine panel team was firm in saying that it has been found out so far that the longer you delay the second dose, the greater is the immune response of the body to COVID-19. So that's good development. Now, I look at the CDC. Their guideline as of date is having it 42 days delay. It's still okay.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yes, yes.
yes, and of course we rely. I would personally rely on our research team here in Manila, in the Philippines, because everything well is done. Is everything is done well on the research side? Okay. So what
Doc
else?
Noy, about this is something to do with what has captivated the attention of people all over the world,
Mhm.
because you are of course aware that India is one of the world's largest manufacturers of vaccine, and yet they
Mhm.
got hit hard.
Yeah.
So, which shows you that one should never be complacent. So, and
Yes.
I don't know, their cases are slowly dropping, but the deaths are still high. So, also Taiwan, no more cases, and then all of a sudden there's a sudden resurgence. So
Yeah.
it means, Doc Noy, even if your people have been vaccinated, we still have to observe
Mhm.
all these protocols, right, Doc
Yeah.
Noy?
Yeah, I think the better way to respond to that is let us take the different things that are happening all over the world. United States, by July 4, they are targeting that day that people will be free from wearing these public protective equipment because they are having that, they are eyeing that herd immunity will be reached by the time. And so far, so good. Many states are doing already, getting away of wearing their mask as of time. Just yesterday, I looked at and visited some European countries, and most of them, not high, 95% of European countries are now having a easing of their lockdown state. So they're opening their tourism, they're opening their shops, their malls, etc., etc. So that's Europe. In Asia, yes, it's more of restricted lockdown or quarantining in some areas. It's not total. It's not the whole area or the city. Just like what we're doing in the Philippines. So it depends on the number of cases, the number of hospitalization cases, especially those who are admitted at severe or critical cases of COVID-19. Yes. So
So,
you're correct, Ms. Dinah. Once everyone or once a person is vaccinated, still maintain the minimum public health standards, the wearing of masks and physical distancing, and the more important thing, which we will later discuss about ventilation.
oh yes, yes, that's right, Doc Noy, because I remember during the first time that you were our guest, and then you mentioned ventilation. Um, one time, I was looking at LinkedIn, and one of the global companies
Mhm.
posted a photo where he showed their air conditioning unit, and
Mhm.
beside the air condition, they put up what we call some kind of a contraption with like a blue liquid inside, and it was described there as that is the one that will ensure that there will be what we call some kind of disinfectant or something. What do you think of that? Like there was this like some kind of a contraption attached to the air conditioning unit, and the liquid
Mhm.
was colored blue.
Okay, so it's a color change reaction of the ventilation system, the air quality that is in the room, and I think that's a high technological procedure that they're doing. All right. So for us here in the country, let me just share with you important thing for all workplaces. Please attention, especially your clients, Ms. Diana. There is a department order issued by the Department of Labor and Employment, which is DO 22421. All right, just Google search guidelines on ventilation on COVID-19. It's easily retrieved. So it talks about the ventilation in the workplace, in the public transport, and also the other facilities in the workplaces. So let me just mention some of these important things. Now, very important to note that we have what we call natural ventilation. Natural ventilation is without the AC system. And of course, the one with HVAC, the bigger companies that we have in the Philippines. So for natural ventilation, it's very important to observe an open windows, open door, where the air is continuously circulating inside. So this is practicable, especially in our very homes. For me, I personally would go for that rather than turning in the air conditioning system, the local air conditioning system. So it is very important, for example, for the workplaces to turn on their air conditioning unit 30 minutes before the occupants arrive. Okay, so that there will be a good airflow there, and we must make sure that there is an air change per hour of 6 to 12, meaning every 6 to 12, every hour, there should be 6 to 12 changes of air compared with the outside air. Remember that we need oxygen from outside to bring it inside. And as the occupants stay inside the room, remember that everybody's breathing, right? Everybody's breathing. So we respire carbon dioxide. So if there are many people who are in the room, carbon dioxide and all the gases are accumulated inside. So that is the importance of having an air change of 6 to 12 per hour. Okay, so talking about exhaust fans, where we have to have it even in our homes. It is said that once the occupants are there, present inside the room, the exhaust fans should be continuously be running. So
Yeah,
do not turn it off as much as possible.
right. And
Now,
I thank
yeah.
you for that because we actually have an exhaust fan here
Uh-huh.
in every room, but we have not been using it for a long time because we thought, not necessary. And after you mentioned it in the talk show we had
Mm-hmm.
you before, I said, oh my gosh, we should use that exhaust fans that
Yes.
we've been using it again because I said,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
That's important, even if you're using a natural ventilation there, to make sure that there is a good flow inside the room.
Yeah.
Now, for rooms that use AC, there should be what we call HEPA filter. HEPA stands for high efficiency particulate air particles that could absorb microorganisms, very small particles. So that could help the absorption of particles within the area, the work area, and that's very important. Now, Ms. Dina, for workplaces, I strongly recommend that they get on board a technical person who is knowledgeable about HVAC systems and all these sorts, because it's also important that air quality should be measured in the room, and we have qualitative and quantitative way of measuring it. The qualitative way of gauging whether your area is contaminated is by simply the senses of smell that we have. A room should be free from smell or any odor for that matter. So once there is a smell inside, that means that the air circulation is not good or the air inside is trapped. So that should be a good qualitative assessment. And of course, for the quantitative, there is a measure of the carbon dioxide inside the room. As I have mentioned earlier, carbon dioxide is the one that is being gauged for contaminated air. Okay. Now, very practical things that we can do would be, of course, the regular maintenance of our AC system, the AC system. Make sure that dust are not there. Now, very interesting to note, in restrooms, in restrooms, the exhaust fan should, as I've said earlier, it should be fully operational while the occupants are there. And when a person uses the toilet bowl, it would be best to put to close the toilet lid. All right. What is the purpose? So that when we flush the water together with the excreta or whatever, there we are sure that there are no extra airborne particles that are circulating that could circulate in our workplace environment. So always close the toilet bowl when using it, after using it, and avoid the use of hand dryers and blowers.
Oh,
Yes, because it only helps to circulate the airborne particles in the workplace. So if you notice, I noticed that in malls here, they get rid already of air blowers, all right, because of that reason.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Okay. Wow.
yes, one more thing before we go further. Also, the vents of the AC, it would be best that they are directed upward rather toward the occupants.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
upward, so that the air circulation should be directed upward, and whatever contaminants is being respired by the occupants, it would not be spread all over the workplace. Okay, one more thing, one last thing. I would discourage using, you see, some offices, they have a plastic cover from ceiling to floor.
Yeah.
I would not encourage that because what it does, it hampers or hinders the good circulation of the air inside. All right. My recommendation is make it half, not up to the ceiling.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, not to up to the ceiling, so that there is still continuous air circulation inside. Okay, so before I go for any further, any item that you may want to raise
Well, yes,
first?
yes. Uh, Dok Noy, I'm sure because you are so aware of everything that's happening, and I do know that you keep updated researches, and you have been. I know you have been studying with the WHO
Oh,
and all
yeah.
of it. So, look, people here, I have to admit, I'm one of them, are getting tired of all these
Oh, yeah.
constant lockdowns. I mean, it's so frustrating. Don't try, please. Honestly, they'll say 2 weeks, and then when the 2 weeks come, oh, another 2 weeks, and it's what is this? It's like a never-ending chain of lockdowns, and oh, so it's almost like there's no end to it.
All right. Okay. So on that regard, I may share with you two recent developments which I'm personally into it. Soon, I'll be enrolling in the World Health Organization Global Infodemic Management, where our task and responsibility would be centering on countering fake news, unvalidated information about the pandemic. So that's one. And number two thing, I'm into also on psychosocial services. So particularly the psychological first aid, which is very important. Psychological first aid is nothing but addressing the acute concern of people. So start from the very first manifestation that the person is exhibiting some psychological disturbances, and supervisors and leaders, managers should know this, how to spot behaviors leading to a more critical, if not attended, critical condition if not attended. So as the word implies, it's a first aid thing that everybody needs at this point in time, because the psychological makeup of people, if unattended, will worsen. Because come to think about it, for practical reason, for example, the finances, economic status of the country all over the world, we don't know. There are so many uncertainties, and you're right. So how do we address this thing? Is for people to understand their psychological well-being and attend to any ill condition that hinders their status on that regard.
Yeah, so in other words, yeah, I get it. I get it. So because the lockdown becomes necessary as the situation will dictate, so it means that we have to watch out for the psychosocial aspects that we are seeing in our people. Now, Doc
Yes.
Noy, while we're at this, and I'm sure that a lot of viewers are tuned in right now,
Mhm.
we are on live stream. Can you please, how do they get in touch with you? Because there might be some corporations
Mhm.
or even families, individuals who may want to consult with you. How do they get in touch with you?
First things first, of course, with due consideration that I'm working for you, for your institution, they could get in touch with you. I always remember that SEASTBI, okay, Southeast Asia Speakers and Trainers Bureau Incorporated, directly to you, or they can get in touch with me directly as well. My email address is Renato. It's flashed in my at the bottom of my screen. Joseph at yahoo.com.ph. Okay.
All right. So because I'm sure there will be certain individuals, certain corporations who would be hard pressed to find somebody who is really knowledgeable and not just a little bit here, a little bit there, but
Yeah, it will
thorough,
be
thorough.
holistic,
Yes,
holistic. And
thorough
you
knowledge.
know, Miss Dinah, there's a good development. Just recently, I got hold of a WHO material. Their psychosocial package includes spirituality.
Oh,
So that's really interesting. That means that the world is really seeking the help of divine intervention because
oh,
science for
yes,
me, this for me, you know, I'm researching left and right, and with my base knowledge on all this public health and all the sciences, I still believe that intervention should come in to the picture.
yes. Because
Okay.
we are not just, I mean, human beings being human beings. We don't just disappear. I mean, the spirit is
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree with you. And so, what are your specific recommendations now for the workplaces?
Uh-huh.
Certain things that, well, there's no getting away from it. The pandemic is still here. So, some words of advice that they can
Okay.
easily follow.
All right. The must during
Yes.
this pandemic. This is
Oh,
based on the premise that this pandemic will take still a long time, right? The shortest that for me, this is my prediction, my firm prediction about the pandemic to stay for a minimum of till next year, right? But eventually, people will be free. But one thing definite is we can never go back to the old life that we had pre-pandemic. That is one thing for sure. So the must moving forward for every company is number one, make sure that your employees get the vaccines that the government is providing. Okay, and it's easy. It's easy. Just go to your LGU, have yourself registered. I think most LGUs do it the manual way. I'm not sure. I think only Makati is doing an online registration or some areas here in Rizal, but most are just doing it in a manual way, going to their health center. And as my experience, they're very good, very systematic in registering enrollees. That's number one, vaccination. Number two, look at your workplace. Okay, I've mentioned about ventilation. That's why I put this as an agenda because I really feel that prevention or the spread of the virus could be helped, but with the proper ventilation. Proper ventilation. Number three, make sure that the organization addresses this pandemic on a team effort, collaboration among the experts in your respective organization. So make use of your engineers, your human resources, your programs in charge of, especially the communication. All right. Let us please, and I will be very firm in saying this, in reminding the managers or the leaders or the presidents of the organizations. Let us make sure that our workforce receives the right information. Okay, and I would strongly suggest to provide your workplaces with a dedicated communication media. Do not rely on social media nowadays. I don't think the Facebook will give us a good purpose on this regard because as of date, Facebook and Twitter are not yet 100% decided to ban the anti-vaxxers, for example.
oh
All
my.
right? They're not doing that because, of course, for many reasons,
Uh-huh.
legal, ethical, social, etc., etc. And number four is, as related to number three, make sure that you have an intact medical team, or you can just get this from your health maintenance organization as an added service to make sure that the proper science is applied in this COVID pandemic. Okay.
Eh,
So these are my four
Yeah.
very strong recommendations for any workplaces.
So, Doc Noy, before I let you go, I know that you have, my goodness, a very hectic work schedule because I know that other people,
Yeah.
I know for a fact that you have also other webinars that you are conducting for all over the Philippines and
Yeah.
sometimes abroad as well. So can you give us like we call some kind of a tentative date, June, July, whenever, wherein we can hear about psychosocial aspects for, you know,
Okay.
protecting our people.
Okay. So just as I have relayed to you earlier, you can they can get in touch with you or to me directly. All right. Post or suggest any date that you have because next week I'm again full primarily on psychosocial issues, leadership on occupational health, and of course my spirituality. I'm also taking time on that. I make sure that I pray fervently towards the end of telling or asking the Lord that this pandemic will soon be ending.
Yes,
So
yes,
just give me the
yes.
date there, proposed dates, and then I'll see my schedule.
Oh,
I could
yes.
fit in. I make
Oh,
sure,
I,
Miss Diana, by the
yes,
way, that I just conduct one
yes,
lecture per day, especially if it's psychosocial, because psychosocial is not that easy
yes,
to deal upon.
yes.
I would like to level off with my participants, so enough time during the session should be provided.
Right, right. So, um, I might take this time now to make a quick announcement that by
Mhm.
next week we have another live stream and our audience can take note of this wherein the Asia Pacific HR leaders have been invited to participate in a panel discussion on how HR
Mhm.
can help individuals, employees, employers cope with job loss of their people
Mhm.
because of course there's a lot of job loss all over. So watch out for this. That is Friday panel discussion for Asia Pacific HR leaders invited to give their best practices on how they can help with the job loss of different employees all over the region. So that
Mhm.
will be at 6 o'clock in the evening, right? So anyway, at the same time, also to announce that most possibly with, of course, after clearing with your calendar, Doc Noy, I'm thinking of sometime also in June, maybe towards the end of June, uh, for a live stream also with you on the psychosocial aspects of this
Yeah.
prevailing crisis we have.
We can more or less we can schedule it second week of June. Second week
Yeah,
of
all
June.
right, all
It's
right.
just
Yeah,
an
yes, sir.
overview of psychosocial program, just like this, a
Yes,
45 minutes to 1 hour overview for
yes.
the viewers.
Oh, so
Yeah,
look, I
Second
honestly,
week of
I
June.
yeah, I'm so touched by your generosity in sharing your time, knowledge, and uh, your all your efforts that you put into this because it is not easy with all the uh, data that you have to be there ready for all of this. So finally, before we end, I thank you, Doc Noy, from my heart and my spirit. And last few words for all your friends and connections out there. I still give you the last few words.
Okay, thank you, Miss Dinah, for this awesome opportunity serving the Lord. I would must highlight that. I must remind everybody that the COVID pandemic is a team effort. Maybe at home or in our offices or even the community, even in the smallest unit, the family. It's a team effort. Let us contribute or share in making sure that the pandemic is addressed in our own individual efforts. So this is the real effective way of doing it. And let us leave everything to the government because for my personal insight on this, I have a high trust for our government team, despite the not so good things that are happening, which I believe it's beyond their control. But for me and some of my team members also, we use the power of prayers because we know that people, because of their, sinful attitude, they're always tempted by temptations, and that make them human. Those things make them human, and just the prayer could be sufficient, asking God for that kind of help for that particular thing. But for particular, I give credence to the team of UP Manila. They're so good. I miss them, but interfacing face to face during our classes, and their effort is a wow in as far as the noble mission of helping our people all over the Philippines. So my hats off to them, and
Yes.
as well, thank you again for having me here in your show.
Thank you so much. And remember, viewers out there, that's the reason why we continuously give you these talk shows, panel discussions that we are having, because learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day, everybody. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.